Hello there, my name's David Goodhart. I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but William asked me to say a few words about the themes from my last couple of books, which I think chime with a lot of your party's concerns. Perhaps the main one is the way in which education, particularly the over-rapid expansion of higher education, has exacerbated social and value divides in our society, how it has made a large proportion of the population feel that their contribution, if they're not climbing the academic ladder, that their contribution is not really valued in the same way that professional cognitive jobs are valued. And I think more broadly, this has led to a kind of narrower definition, a too narrow definition of what it is to lead a successful life in our society. The related problem is one again that I think that you and the SDP share, which is that our politics, our whole culture has become over-dominated by what one might call the liberal graduate worldview, in my language, the kind of the anywhere worldview, and that this has sidelined a lot of more traditional intuitions, whether it's about place and belonging, pace of change, immigration, the nation state, the family, and so on. I ought to, perhaps a couple of disclaimers are in order. I'm not saying in any sense that higher education at universities are redundant institutions, nor that high intelligence is not an extremely important asset in our societies. Obviously, we saw this in the pandemic, the way that highly cognitively trained teams of scientists collaborating over national boundaries in many cases to come up with the vaccine solutions. We're going to need technological answers to climate change and so on. And indeed, if you go back to the 70s, 80s, even 90s, we probably undersupplied university places in this country. We needed more, but the expansion of the welfare state, the demand for more doctors and teachers and so on, we needed more cognitively trained people, professionals in our society. But the truth is, we have overexpanded that now. Very, very few of us actually create genuinely new knowledge, and a very large number of people are going into classical academic university education, which tends to be very dominated by the middle class. The middle class and the upper middle class, it's just an automatic rite of passage, when they don't have any particular intellectual curiosity and they are not of exceptional academic ability. And we're, perhaps more important, we're seeing serious diminishing returns setting in now when it comes to higher education. We've reached what I call peak head. And you can see that in so many statistics. Something like a third of graduates are not in graduate employment between 5 and 10 years after graduating. The graduate income premium has collapsed, except for those going to the most elite universities. If you look at the proportion of the adult workforce that are in the top two social classes, defined as professional and managerial class, higher and lower, the proportion of people in that group has barely budged in the last 20 years. It was 35% in 2000 and it went up to 37% last year. And yet we're churning out more and more people with generalist academic training to take up roles in these sorts of jobs. And it's created all sorts of misaligned expectations. People, disappointed expectations. People are expecting relatively well-paid, high-status professional occupations, and they're ending up, working for, back office for 22 grand, and because of their expectations, they're not doing that job particularly well. I think this is afflicting a lot of the kind of middle layers of the public services. So we're creating two groups of losers. Not only the 50% of school leavers who are not going to university, who feel that they are second-class citizens. But also a large proportion of those who are going to university are also feeling that they're not, and many of these kids from working class or lower middle class backgrounds now, who previous generations would have gone into skilled trades, technical jobs of one kind or another, for which we now have absolutely massive shortages. That's the so-called missing middle of technical occupations. And we also have this huge shortage of carers, both in the health service and particularly in social care. So we've got, we've just got things quite badly out of kilter. And as I say, we're creating a generation with disappointed expectations. And I think this is contributing to some of these sort of political, emotional outbursts, like the Bernie Sanders movement in America, or Corbyn here, and even BLM. But I do think things are beginning to shift. I think things are moving in the right direction in some respects. An adjustment is underway. And I think it's one that needs our support. I think that this government is broadly speaking moving in the right direction when it comes to raising the status of non-academic post-school education and training. We've had the apprenticeship levy. I know there are many problems with that, but we've had, and we're in the middle of the introduction of T-levels in schools, a sort of a technical vocational alternative to A-levels. We have seen a lot of talk from ministers about investing more in the FE sector, and not just focusing everything on higher education. And of course, the labour market itself is providing a sort of correction. I mean, we see wages in the middle for certain occupations like HGV drivers and so far, and at the bottom are increasing quite rapidly. But the HE industrial complex, as it were, is not going to give up without a fight. It's going to push back quite hard. It is pushing back quite hard, and in the short term, we're going to see as many kids as ever, indeed more kids than ever, are going to university. That's partly because of the labour market uncertainties created by the pandemic. But there has been a real shift, I think, in the perception of the value of university education. It used to be the case, the universities used to boast about this opinion poll in which 95% of all parents thought that they wanted their kid to go to university. There was one the other day produced by SMF, the SMS think tank, that said that only 47% of parents would prefer their child to get a vocational training than go to university. I mean, now obviously there are some people who should go to university from all backgrounds. People who make the argument that I'm making, perhaps particularly if they come from my background, are accused of kicking away the ladder. That really isn't the case. It's about rebalancing the status and reward across our society and across the labour market. This shift I wrote about in my last book, from sort of rebalancing the status and reward that we allocate to occupations associated with the head, the hand, and the heart. And here I think it's remember I would commend to you who don't know his work, the work of the late Jeff Dench, who always pointed out that the problem is not making high status, well-paid jobs more easily available to more people. I mean, that is an issue. Obviously, we want a representative elite. We want openness. We want a career open to the talents. That goes without saying now. But the much bigger problem in the medium term in societies like ours now is making the really hard slog. The jobs that are not in themselves sort of creative or attractive or comfortable. How do you incentivize young people to do those jobs? In manual jobs, bin men, working in care homes, and so on. I mean, this is the problem that we really need to focus on, rather than the continual this sort of fantasy of just sending more and more kids to university, which has left us in the state we're in now.